Hey guys, welcome back to the Staying Christian podcast. I am your co-host, Gavin, and I have with me...
Eli Chamley, the other co-host. Probably the better one. Oh no, it's up to you guys.
Yeah, you guys vote
Vote in the comments.
Yeah.
Vote.
This is an interview with our good friend Jonathan Kline, who's done some mission work, and we had him on because we were like, yo, you probably have a pretty unique viewpoint on this, better than us anyways, because we've certainly done nothing except for Eli. He's gone to Africa.
Oh yeah, I was there for like 40 years. I did so much great stuff.
He was there for a couple weeks.
I was there for a few weeks.
Anyways, we thought it'd be interesting to have him on. You guys might enjoy it, you might not. If you don't want to hear a long interview with a super interesting, cool dude that is, in my opinion, pretty godly, then skip this episode. Otherwise, you're in for a treat.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. We enjoyed it, so hope you do too.
Yeah, and if this is your first episode listening to this, then yeah, we're a little bit weird.
That's who we are.
We're just two young dudes trying to make a podcast about following God and continuing on that journey because it's a hard life.
Yeah.
It's a hard life.
The most difficult life I've ever lived. Enjoy.
Here's the interview. Alrighty, you want to get us started, Eli?
Sure. So what's your favorite food?
Gosh. Well, usually it's food I don't make.
Really?
I have cooked for small groups of people before, and when you're smelling it and creating it yourself, it's less appetizing than like when you walk in the house and you smell cookies that your mom just made. You're just like, cloud nine. You make cookies and you're like, this is awesome, but it's like a steady 5, you know?
Yeah.
So,
all right, well, who are you?
Yeah, who the heck are you, dude?
Because we know you, but our listeners don't. Okay. So, like, a short synopsis of Jonathan Kline.
My middle name is David.
Don't give out all your information, dude.
My social security number.
I was born in Florida. Mm-hmm. My dad was in the Navy at the time. And haven't been back since. I've been raised in Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yeah. So, but I don't really, I guess I feel kind of like an outsider because my parents are from up north. And so I don't have a southern accent unless I listen to country music. But they're like, you're from the South? I went to Selma Hardware the other day. And they're like, where are you from? And I'm like, here. And they're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, I know how that is.
And you're like, well, the people you're around, you pick up their accents.
Right.
So, I'm 27 years old.
27?
I'm 27.
I didn't know you were 27.
Yeah.
Ancient.
Very ancient.
Old man.
I have a gray hair somewhere around here on the side.
So do I.
It's been there for like 5 years. I'm like, okay.
Just a singular one?
I only saw one, so.
Okay, wow.
Well, I'm 5 years younger than you, and I have a gray hair, so.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
This will be the one that's still around in 5 years.
Eli's
so.
I'm an old man speech over here.
I'm the oldest guy in the world.
It's a crown of wisdom or something.
Are you a believer, Jonathan?
I am a firm believer.
Okay.
So,
Believe in the crystal power?
Yeah.
No, just kidding. Screw zodiac signs. Who's your favorite Sesame Street character?
Zodiac. Oh my gosh.
I identify with Cookie Monster.
What is that?
Oh yeah. I'm probably Grover.
That's it. Grover's dope, but Cookie Monster rules hands down.
All right. So how'd God recruit you then?
How'd God recruit you? Do you want to expound on that? Like,
yeah.
When did you become a Christian?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess it'd be like,
when did you dedicate your life?
when was God like, hey,
yo, Johnny boy,
pay attention to me, because I'd say like, how'd you find God or whatever. It's just like, sometimes it's just not that immaculate and
A little more messy.
yeah,
It's like not as clear.
it's more like getting hit over the head with a pan and then you're like, oh, I should be paying attention.
Okay, yeah. I've met some people who are like, if you don't know the date, then how do you really know?
Oh
and
my
I'm just like,
oh
well,
no, I'm not
I really
like that.
don't. So.
I'm not like that, but I with a lot of people I've heard, it's just kind of like I had this event in my life and it was kind of eye-opening to the fact that God is real and I should be paying attention, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I guess I kind of assume that most people have had a similar encounter, I guess. Mm-hmm. That's like a common factor I've seen.
Common thread.
Not that it's like a set in stone formula, but like, even though I grew up surrounded by Christian people, it's still like there was still something that had to get my attention because, I just didn't pay enough attention.
Yeah. So I was raised in a Christian household. My parents were both believers, and like they were making life decisions like that had consequences because they were trying to seek after God. And like, I don't know if everything they were doing was great and, you know, kosher and, they were nailing all this, but I can say they were trying. So I think I grew up in a pretty good environment.
So you hate your parents?
No.
They did their best,
but like they still failed. So
well, they're human, so technically yes. But so I kind of grew up with the understanding that there was a God. I understood that I should be reading the Bible, but I wasn't. I heard a bunch of adults being like, you know, the Bible says this and the Bible says that, and I'm just like, wow, that's pretty wise, and it's kind of far off, and you know, I'm not mature enough to read this, and it's a big scary book, you know.
Yeah.
And so it was very kind of intimidating, but like so much so that I didn't even really try. So, I started just trying to, you know, growing up, I had a lot of insecurities as a kid, some pretty big ones, and was doing some stuff in my life, 16, 17, that I shouldn't have been.
Isn't that all of us though?
Yeah, I guess it's the part of being
I was
a teenager.
perfect, so.
No,
Well, that's the thing. Like my friends would go off drinking in the woods, going off doing stuff, and I wasn't invited along because I was the goody two shoe.
Oh yeah.
So, or that's what they thought. So really, even the appearing to be good and appearing to be perfect, and not even really needing to read the Bible or do anything. It's like I had the appearance of being a good person, but I was pretty rotten inside. And it's like I was thinking of my sisters. I love my sisters. I have 3 sisters, and I'm like, if they're going to heaven, they probably don't need to be around a guy like me because I'm just trash. You know?
Oh my gosh, dude.
Because God was just convicting me of the sin I had in my life.
Okay.
And you know, sin is sin.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I was in some pretty bad stuff, but you know, it was all on the inside.
Yeah.
So, and God was using that to convict me, you know, and everyone's like, "Oh, Jonathan's great," and God's like, "No, you're not. You're pretty bad." And I, you know, so you know, it's like some self condemnation happening there too. But like, God was really convicting me of sin, and you know, I'd grown up hearing a lot about God and that there was like forgiveness, but I rarely heard about Jesus and my need for Him. And I would talk to my mom and be like, you know, so what if my friends wanted to get forgiven for this? You know, could they get forgiven by God for this?
Say I had a friend who needed something.
Exactly. And she's like, yeah, you know, God can forgive your sins. You know, well, what about this? Yeah, God can forgive that too. You need to ask for, you know, they need to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
they do.
Those darn friends.
Yeah, my sinner friends, they really need some of that.
Yeah.
You can tell them how to get, or tell me and I can tell them how to get it.
Yeah, so I mean, it was kind of a long process, probably like 3 to 6 months, just kind of asking my mom, trying to do right, thinking I could make it on my own without turning to God.
Yeah.
And then being like, oh no, I failed, you know, and I really need God. So, I mean, God was really laying the pressure on me. I mean, sleepless nights, nightmares, all this. I'm just like,
oh my gosh.
and I sleep soundly. I don't have nightmares. I don't have bad dreams. You know, I conk out, good. And I just remember one night, like, just pleading to God, pleading to Jesus, and feeling His presence. And then it was gone. And, you know, it's like, okay, that was a great feeling. And like the next day, people are like, what happened to Jonathan? And he's smiling, you know. You know? I was working at Whitney at the time, and but like something had changed because I knew regardless of what I'd done in my life, I was forgiven.
Yeah.
My eternity was taken care of. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like stealing. I view this as like, if you keep stealing and you keep doing little things, there's laws that you're going to be held accountable one day.
Mm-hmm.
And there's stuff I didn't want to be accountable for. But knowing that someone came up and was like, I know everything you've done. The tally's here. It's all taken care of. It's like a whole new start. And it was just like, oh, it's off my chest. It's taken care of. It's not just forgotten. It's been taken care of.
Yeah.
It's been paid.
Yeah. Paid in full.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's how I got saved. I was probably like 17 and a half, around 17, 18, almost 18.
17 3/4.
So I don't know the date. I think it was somewhere in April. But I do remember just that time where God was really convicting me and then having that peace.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And everything's going to be great now. So
It gets harder from there.
yeah, there's something called a honeymoon phase, I think. So,
Oh, yeah.
so
What led you to do like the Seahawks stuff? Like I've heard about that before.
So after that time in my life, I was like, okay, I'm saved. I'm starting to read the Bible, crack it open, and cough as I'm trying to digest these really hard passages. I graduated from homeschool. So,
Oh yeah.
Hashtag homeschool.
and started working full time. And I was working in that warehouse, and don't get me wrong, the warehouse is great. But I was thinking, I'd never really had terrible self-esteem. I didn't really have any ambition in life of things to do, or what to do. And I'm like, you know what? If God saved me, he may have saved me for more than just here.
Just pulling boxes.
Just seeing. I didn't have any dreams. I didn't have like, oh, I want to go off and do this. I want to go off and do that. I was just like, maybe there's something more to life than this. And I'm like, God, if there's not, it's fine. I can come back here, So my dad had mentioned it to me a couple times, and I'd just like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'm playing video games right now.
Yeah.
And so some childhood friends I knew, and I was like, oh, I could just go with them. And if it doesn't work, I can just come back. It's great, So I hated the thought of leaving this place because all the friends I knew were all here. So my dad told me about friendships, got me interested, and then because two people I knew were going, I was like, okay, I can do this.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I die, people are gonna bear witness I died.
So wait, how long had you lived here in this church before?
Pretty much my whole life. So I was 18.
Okay.
I was 18 when I went down to Friendships, which my first day at Friendships was August 10th.
Wow, you got all these dates memorized.
August 10th, 2013, because it is when my life ended.
Oh.
And my birthday is the 25th. So
Okay.
yeah, I was like, just made it in when I was 18. And then I was 19.
So for people who don't really know about like Seahawks and friendship stuff, what all do they do?
Yeah, what is that?
So Friendships is an international disaster relief ministry. They're a Christian ministry, faith-based. They're non-denominational. So if you're Catholic, if you're Protestant, does not matter. If you believe in the Christian God, you're please come serve. So Friendships is the ministry name, and they do a lot of humanitarian aid around the world. They usually move stuff in ships. They have a lot of ships at a place called Port Mercy.
That's the name, Friendships.
Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Yeah.
And so they facilitate a discipleship program called Seahawks.
Okay.
And the Seahawks were like something like the young adults who would be the hands and feet, moving the humanitarian aid back and forth.
Yeah.
We got to go on missions, or, there's a video online. I'm not sure where it is right now, but it's like come serve with Friendships, Seahawks, and you'd see all these guys doing like boot camp PT and stuff, and it's
Yeah,
like, that's
yeah.
cool. It's like, also you get to go sailing. There's sailing on sailboats. There's dolphins. We don't know where the dolphins came from, but there's dolphins, and because they did a lot of work in Honduras, and
yeah. So they got all their marketing
Africa.
material
Yeah.
they were in Russia.
in the tropical areas. So they're like, come to the tropics. And then they
Yeah.
send you somewhere else.
Basically a vacation.
Yeah. So but
Was it like that? Did you no dolphins
no dolphins?
Oh, okay.
Actually, I did see dolphins
one time?
But for those who don't know, there's dolphins in rivers,
Yeah.
especially close to the sea.
river
They're
dolphins.
ugly dolphins. They're
yeah.
blind dolphins.
Yeah, they are gross.
So they're not the cute little porpoises.
Bottlenose, yeah.
So I was like, oh, and that was after we had like got our ship stuck on a sandbar.
Oh,
It was
okay.
like,
Aren't
at least there's dolphins.
Aren't they like pink or something?
They were like a light gray.
Oh, yeah, I see.
They're not from Disney.
They're
all right?
No, they kind of gross.
They're pretty neat
Yeah,
creatures, but I mean,
for sure.
they were just like this is not
This is
Hawaii.
not my idea of paradise.
Yeah.
These were not, and to this day, like all the Seahawks in my intake were like, "Where's the dolphins?" And they're like, "Where did you see dolphins?" It's like there was a video on the internet of friendships, and they're like, "We don't have dolphins." So
False advertising.
That's
False
right.
Going home.
Yeah.
So it was a very structured boot camp PT. No sugar, no phones. You had to write your family. You had to journal every day. You had about an hour of devotions every day, 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening. You're reading your Bible. You have to read your Bible in the morning. So it was great because, nothing like finding out what the Bible says than actually reading it.
No
And,
way.
Yeah, it's
That's a good way to recenter, too. Just be like, this is what I'm here for.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, I about left the second week. It was just so hard.
Really?
Yep.
Physically?
Physically, yes. I'd never been pushed so much in my life. And I'd done soccer, so my cardio was pretty good. But it was so rough. And also, everything I'd ever known, I'd left behind.
Yeah.
Everyone I cared about was not there. I'd known your aunt and Donna,
Yeah.
but like we weren't great friends.
Yeah.
They could lean on each other, but like I was
You
pretty
were
much a
just
stranger.
Jonathan, that weirdo goody two shoes down there.
Yeah. So I was a really weirdo. You should see my haircut I had that first day. So we had like 2 hours of PT out in the sun. Louisiana is probably the worst place on earth to do PT.
Hot and humid and
Yeah.
swampy.
Well, it started in August, and
Oh, the
August
perfect-
is always
The perfect month to start PT.
Yeah. I was doing like burpees on the hold, and I literally had like puddles of sweat dripping off the ship because it was just so hot, and it's in the night.
So you did pass through that stuff, or did you?
What made you stay? You just remember?
All right, so there's this guy named Steven Jacobs. He was a second year Seahawks. So when you're entering into Seahawks, you're a first year.
Yeah.
We call him
Greenie.
you're a squawk.
You're-
You're not a Seahawk. You're a squawk. And he saw that I was like really wrestling. Like should I stay or should I go?
Should I stay?
I know. He talks to me. He's like, "Well, have you ever heard God in your life?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe." God, still to this point has never like specifically talked to me in an audible voice.
Sure.
And there's people he does, and that's great. That's awesome. I'm not saying like, oh, that's fake.
Yeah.
And just because you don't hear God doesn't mean it's fake either. And I remember Pastor Daniel. Remember Pastor Daniel would come around?
Yep.
So when I was up in Rhode Island, we went to a conference he went to, and he just told me, be a man of your word. And I'm like, oh, well, there's this one time God kind of spoke to me. He's telling me to be a man of my word. And Stephen Jacobs was like, well, what do you think God's trying to tell you? I'm like, well, I said I was going to do this, and I have to stay. And I stayed, and it was hard, but it was a lot less hard because I had made up my mind
Yeah.
to
So
do
there
it.
was no wavering anymore.
Quitting was not an option. And when quitting is an option, if you still have that bridge behind you, you can go back. You'll chicken out because the battle's rough.
Mm-hmm.
It was really rough. And, if I had the chance to do it again, I probably would chicken out and not do it. It was great. It made me the man I am today.
Right.
But and also I realized I can't quit and then 2 girls beat me. I'm going to go back
Yeah.
where everyone knows me.
Everyone knows that they beat you.
No.
And these girls, so
Outlasted you.
outlasted me. I'm like, I can't do it.
No. Yeah.
So even though that's not really right, but it,
Sure. Oh yeah.
having a little bit of pride made
Yeah,
me
yeah.
be like,
Yeah.
That's good.
I can't be beaten. So when we got in, they just got done doing missions in Honduras. And I was like, dang it, we don't get to go to Honduras. I wanted to go out and see the world a little bit. And so we weren't like praying for disasters to happen, but we wanted anything to happen to get us out of boot camp. Because when a disaster happens, you don't have to do boot camp PT. You get to go respond to that disaster, which is still hard, but it's not boot camp PT.
Yeah.
Which is
You actually got a reason for it.
exactly,
Yeah.
and it's more purposeful. You can see the reason behind it. So we were praying that God would give us the opportunity to respond to a disaster.
Not for disasters explicitly, just the
We
opportunity.
we wanted disasters, but no loss of human life.
Sure.
So now we found the reason bad things happen. It's because ministry
this whole
groups
group.
pray for something to do.
So at the end of boot camp, we went to Mexico. We were supposed to go to Honduras. There was a sailboat that left before us called the Divine Wind. And as soon as she left Louisiana, she was like, there was a storm behind her the whole time. So 2 of our battalion, Billy and Michelle, were on that boat. They went down and they pulled into a cove to kind of shelter from the storm, but they ran aground on a sandbar because when a storm comes in, the waters rise. So you can go in farther than you should, and then the waters recede, and you're stuck. So we got another ship ready, and this one, it kind of looks like the ship off Deadliest Catch, except take all the lobster cages off and put some shipping containers on there, and those are your bunks.
So you guys lived in shipping containers on the top of the deck of the ship.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We get there, and we're trying to pull it out, but the water level's gone down. The ship's in there, and it's been going up and down on the waves, so it's kind of created like a little bowl for it to sit in. So, and I mean, smashing down. The ship's not supposed to do that, smashing down. And it's a wooden ship. It's a sailboat. It was actually commissioned in the Royal Navy over in England.
Wow.
So I'm not sure how Friendships got its hands on it, but it was donated to Friendships. So it's a really old boat. So we're trying to pull it out, and like they were trying everything they could. They had flotation airbags. You deflate them, strap them underneath the hull of the ship, then you inflate them, which should make the ship more buoyant.
Yeah.
And that helped a little bit. They were trying to dig a trench out of the. They were trying everything they could think of. So we set up a pylon or something. We drove some really long metal stakes into the ground, and then put a block and tackle on it, and then these huge mooring lines, these really thick lines, going to the bow of the Divine Wind to the Integrity, and we were trying to pull it with the Integrity, and it would come a little bit, but then it would go back, and it was really hard to make progress. And so what ended up happening was a storm came through, and everyone went to sleep. The watch officers are supposed to be looking out, and we started drifting because the storm. The anchor, we put out an anchor so you don't drift. The anchor was just moving, and it's hard to
So
the current, the wind. I mean, if you think about the amount of surface area that's on a ship and the wind pushing it, it's like a sail essentially.
Yeah.
The side of your ship, especially when it's that high above the water. It's like 20 feet above the water. So it ended up the storm pushing us, drug the Divine Wind out, and almost to the pylon because it's still attached to the block and tackle.
Yeah.
And it stopped just in front of it. If it had gone a little bit further, it would have smashed the front of the ship.
Whoa.
So,
Wow.
the next morning, Sandy
Divine
Jangles.
Wind was there.
Yeah. So, it ends up coming out, and it's like, someone's like, is the Divine Wind out? And I'm like, no, it's never been out. We were down there for like almost 2 months trying to do stuff. And, we tried everything. And he's like, yeah, the Divine Wind's out. And I'm like, no, it isn't. And I kind of heard a voice in my head, like, "Oh, ye of little faith," and I'm like, and I look, and it is. And when a ship's at sea, it's moving, all right, because the waves, the wind, all that, the waves are moving it up and down. It had been standing still or going up and then back down, and it was bobbing, and I was like, "It's out." So they hightail it out of there, and like I think it was either that day or the next day, the integrity got stuck.
What?
Which is
no.
You know, if you've been out on a cruise, the ship stays still, but our ship was constantly moving, and it's a flat bottom boat. It has isn't that deep in the water, like 12 foot, and and it's weird because you wake up and the ship's still, and you're like, oh no. So they were trying to figure out what to do. And then Brother Don and Miss Sandra, the directors of Friendships, were praying, and the ship just started moving, and it's like, go, 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 go. So they fired up the engines full throttle, got out of there, and by that time, we had spent so much time we couldn't go on to Honduras. So we dragged the Divine Wind back to Port Mercy. So that was my adventure at sea. After that, I was the groundskeeper at Friendships for like 4 years, and just mowing grass out there in the sun at a sombrero.
Nice.
I was over an intake for a time. I moved up to servanthood. I didn't really know what that meant at the time, and they laid hands on me, prayed for me. Yeah, so I was over grounds. I'd listen to audiobooks and podcasts while I'm out there on the mowers, doing PT, and just preparing for the next mission. And we responded to some local disasters, but it was just a long 4 years of mowing grass, which I was really good at. Like, whatever you do it to the best of your ability. I really believe in a strong work ethic, because like whatever you do, you're the one doing the job. Yeah. Everything you put your hand to, how well you do it, it all depends on you, and the tools you have at your disposal. Yeah. So, and if you're trying to be a man of excellence, you need to do everything you can to the best of your ability, because it reflects on you. So I did as best as I could with the stuff I had, and we were blessed with like a 0-turn lawnmower, and some steel line trimmers. So I really took that up and ran with it and did it the best I could, and wasn't very glamorous. And
for 4 years.
For 4 years,
dude.
I didn't know this like later, but like the new intakes were like always terrified of me, because I was just kind of grouchy, kind of still the same way, but
big black beard, and you're just like walking around in a 0-turn.
I was clean shaven. This is the new addition.
To
my face. My sister was like, cover it up, do something. I was really still insecure with who I was. For a time, I had like a poster of like everything that God says you are. Like, you are a child of God. He calls you co-heirs, and I just had that on my door, and I would get depressed or whatever, and I'd just focus on that, telling myself over and over, and I'd be reading Psalms and just telling myself, this is who God says I am. I'm not my doubts. I'm not my passions. I'm not, getting angry. I'm not my mistakes I've made in life. I'm what God says I am. Yeah. I'm forgiven. I'm redeemed, stuff like that. So that was a really important part of my life. Later, I think 2017, I ended up going over to the Middle East, in Syria.
Part of a Seahawk?
Part of the Seahawks, still at Friendships. And we had the opportunity, because they had done ministry work with Israel in the past. The Israelis really knew the directors, and they're like, hey, there's a Syrian war happening on our border, and we can't get involved. But there's an opportunity for y'all to, we can set up a medical facility, and y'all know doctors, bring them over, and we can start helping these civilians, because, we still care about them, even though we're enemies.
Right.
So I think Syria and Israel are still at war. There's never been a peace treaty.
Wow.
Like, they've been at war for like 40 years or something. There's never been a ceasefire. I think there is something like a ceasefire, but they're legally still at war right now. So I had the opportunity to go over there, and once again, sat on my hands for like 4 to 6 months, because they were trying to find a place on the border that Israel could secure, because we couldn't have any Israelis there. They were like, okay, you got to be close enough to a military base so that we can respond if something happens. And we need to be able to keep our eyes on this place because we didn't have any guns, no protection, nothing. And so it took like 4 months for them to find a place. And I mean, it was so hard because you fly over there, you fly overseas, you go through London, and you're like, all right, we're ready to go. We've been working. This is what I've been training 4 years for, mowing the grass, but I've been getting ready.
And then you get there,
to
it's like,
sit on your hands.
all right, sit here for a bit. We got to figure out what we're doing.
And
4 months.
So what were you doing? You just like sitting around Israel, just
we had a house,
eating some street food and like just chilling?
We had stuff coming over in shipping containers. So generators, tents, supplies, medical supplies.
A lot of unloading.
Pharmaceuticals. Yeah, a lot of unloading. But that didn't happen for like at least 4 months. So we were just in a house in Bnei Yehuda, which is in the Golan Heights in northern Israel. So, which is a contested area still. Syria owned that at one point. At the time, mission was top secret because Israel couldn't be involved, and there's some stuff about it now, but like we couldn't really tell our parents where we were. We're going into a war zone, an active war zone, and I'm just like, once again, I didn't really have an ambition to do any of this. It's just like, hey, do you want to do this?
Sure.
Well, yeah.
Might as well.
It's helping other people.
Yeah.
And, we set up a medical facility there in the Golan Heights area on the Syrian border. And we were actually on the wrong side of the border fence, but still in Israel. So we're just on the wrong side of the fence. The fence doesn't exactly follow the border. When we got there wasn't hot water. It was great training. Stuff in Louisiana. Great training. I ended up doing security work there too. No body armor, nothing. Just painted hats that were blue, spray painted blue, because that was the UN color. So they knew they would possibly think the UN was there. But no guns, because think about it, like if I'm going to rob a house and I know someone has a gun in that house, I'm going to bring a gun. But if I know they don't have anything, I'm a lot less likely to use lethal force. Yeah. So it's kind of
you're a lot less intimidating. And yeah, I see.
A lot less intimidating.
Especially for the medical tent stuff, because then they're like, oh, these are just medics. I'm not going to bomb these guys just because they're medics.
Because we're in an active war zone.
Yeah.
We were surrounded by like a minefield. And
nice.
You saw people walk through it all the time, like farmers and their sheep. Every once in a while, one would go off. But like, I don't know. I think there were maybe anti-vehicle mines.
Okay.
Not anti-personnel mines.
Okay.
Interesting story. So I was on security. They already had a security team, and I was just one of the volunteers they put on it to kind of be an extra man so I could take over a shift. And so it was like 10 o'clock at night, and we had just had a visitor come in from the Israeli side. And they opened the gate. The guy comes in, and he's a evangelist from like New York. He was abandoned as a kid and taken into an orphanage. And so now he has like, I don't know if he's still alive, but he had like an orphanage in New York, had a ministry specifically for children, because God just really moved on his heart to, because it was part of his story.
Help other orphans, yeah.
Help other orphans. And so he had come to the camp because he knew Brother Don, and he had many attempts on his life, like shot, stabbed a couple times. This guy was going to some crazy places to minister to kids.
Oh my gosh.
And so for life insurance, he had to wear a vest. Like a vest. And no one else around us has vests. But this guy, for insurance purposes, has a vest. And he just puts it on and then puts his shirt over it. You can hardly tell he's wearing it. It's one of those Kevlar ones. Like, it just stop a pistol, like a low caliber pistol.
Yeah, but not a 7.62 or something like that. That'll go right through it.
Right through it. And okay, I meet him in passing, and I'm on security that night. I go up to on top of this bunker, because if something happens, we're supposed to run in the bunker, hit the alarm, and the IDF will show up. We just hunker down until they do. Yeah. Because we just want to get everyone out of the camp where they're exposed into a bomb shelter, which this bunker was, and wait for the cops to show up. Yeah. So I'm like looking through binoculars and all that. I don't see anything. About 10 o'clock, about an hour and a half into my shift, I'm the only one on duty. And
Nice.
I hear a boom. And I'm like, what? Who the heck is firing a gun inside our camp? Pop up and I look, and we have these big white tents set up for facilitating doctors and the people while they're waiting, the Syrian refugees. And I see like some smoke coming over one of the tents, just like a little bit of smoke. But I'm like, what on earth? And so I run down, and everyone starts evacuating into the bunker. And we start counting people, and there's someone missing. I'm like, oh no. And they're like, yeah, there was a guy that was, the visitor. We don't know where he's.
What?
So I'm running. I got to find him. So I'm ducking under the tents and going through this camo netting, and I'm freaking out because a gun was fired and we can't find somebody, and everyone's running, and the IDF is on their way. Mm-hmm. But holy cow, I might get shot.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't have any body armor, nothing.
Nice.
I have nothing.
Yeah.
Just a t-shirt and some pants.
T-shirt, some pants, and a radio that keeps flapping the antenna. I hear something, and so I go towards it, and these tents come in these big containers, and he was up against one of those containers along the border of the fence.
The missing guy with the vest?
The missing guy.
Okay.
And I didn't know he was wearing a vest. Oh, he's the only guy in the camp wearing a vest. He had been walking around the camp. Well, let me finish. I grab him, and kind of pull him along and help him get into the bunker. We lock the bunker. The IDF comes, clears out. They search with dogs, search the whole area. Can't find anything. And the story goes on. But he had been walking around the camp praying, looking out. There's coyotes, all this stuff. And he'd been like looking out past the fence, trying to see stuff out there. And he turned around and had been shot in the back. So as he was turning, he was shot in the back. Fell down. He had like 2 broken bones, a collapsed rib, but the bullet didn't enter him. The vest somehow had stopped it, and it's later on they found out it was like from a rifle. Like it had to have been like really close, because once it reaches the speed, terminal velocity or something, it would have just punched through him. And the only guy wearing the vest walking outside the camp is the only guy who was shot. He was only there for like 24 hours.
Oh my god.
And in that period, the only time someone was shot was during that time.
Dude.
So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And, he had a conference in London, so he like was out the next day so he could fly. And then after the conference, he got medical attention, and they're like, "Oh, you got a couple. Oh, you got some stuff."
So he went to the conference.
Yeah, I've been hurting after I got shot.
So
that's all.
But that just demonstrated to me like God really had His hand on us, because I was looking, I couldn't see anything. You do the best you can,
right.
And God stepped in, and
yeah.
So
that's pretty cool.
It was crazy.
Wow.
So how long were you over there in that scenario?
About 2 years. I was over there. There was one time I didn't leave the camp for 6 months. On this piece of property for 6 months. Did not leave. Didn't go out. So, I was over there for about 2 years.
So what happened? The camp shut down? Or?
Eventually, it did shut down. We actually had ISIS. ISIS came by, and before they did, they evacuated us.
Okay.
And we never really went back, because also the reason we were there is because there were Syrian rebels on the other side. And the intelligence community had worked out a deal with the rebels saying, hey, allow your citizens to come over here and receive medical equipment. But Assad, the government, at that time took over that area, and Assad and the rebels were at war with each other.
I got you.
And it was no longer safe. So they evacuated us. But before that, we had ISIS go by us, because ISIS was like 6 miles away.
What?
Yeah.
Dude.
And it was like, yeah, they're coming by. Y'all need to leave, because you're an international Christian medical group.
Yeah.
International, mostly Christians. There's not Israelis, but international citizens. No Israelis there. And so, yeah, they were like, yeah, this would be a perfect target for ISIS to strike, the international community.
So did they like raid the camp or whatever? Did you guys ever find out?
I don't think so. But I know they went by there, from what I've been told. After that, we went back in when the area was secure. went back in and tore all the tents down and moved all our stuff out. And, and basically moved all that stuff to a place and just waited for the next opportunity. When you're over there, you don't get involved with politics. You don't get involved with who you're actually serving. As in, you don't care about where they come from. You don't care who they are. You see an opportunity to help someone in front of you. And that's really important, I think, because like the people we were helping were the rebels. They're the type of people who bombed the two towers. They're the type of people that were Muslim extremists, you know, and to be Christian and not care about that. When the world's like, no, they need to die, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you're there to serve them and heal them. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not here to change you. I'm here to
show you Christ's love through servanthood.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully God uses this opportunity to change your heart, you know, but you know, I'm here serving God, and there's an opportunity to serve. I'm not here, even if I don't see any results, you know, even if I don't see people come to God, I'm serving God. I'm not serving, you know, I'm not
group. Yeah.
I'm not chasing fruit. I'm not chasing, you know, confessions. I'm not chasing all these baptisms or, you know, I see an opportunity to help someone in need. And, you know, it was really hard over there. So I'm constantly in hard situations where I'm like, why am I here? And I really have to dig deep. And God, I mean, and all this is God. This is not, oh, Jonathan's great person. This is like, God's like, I'm going to increase the pressure so you start turning to me again and trying to find satisfaction and joy in me, you know?
Yeah.
So it was great. I was trying to find like, what's the next stage in life? And at that point I was a sergeant. Friendships had been gradually getting smaller, and I'm like, there's not really a person to take my place, or I would have left sooner. Because I was like, you know, what's the next thing for me? What does God have next for me? You know, a lot of my friends were going off and getting married, and I'm like, dang it, I want to get married. No, women are pretty awesome.
They're pretty cool, man.
That's a good way to.
So I was kind of like trying to find what's next for me.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, you know, get a trade. You can support yourself.
So you essentially were just like, all right, well, I need to find a trade to do. So you came back home.
Yep, there was an opportunity, and also I was interested in a girl that I had met, good Christian girl, and
then she was like, no, Jonathan,
that Proverbs 31 woman.
Well, I thought, I think she was pretty great, but I guess I wasn't right.
Yep.
Annie, I don't want to talk about. No.
Starts crying.
What was that 30 minutes y'all had to cut out? The tears.
The
eye.
Just quick cut real quick.
Little dive.
Anyway, so.
So
do you like what you're doing now and all
that? Someone asked me this recently too. I'm trying to find satisfaction and seek after it. It doesn't just come to me. And when I expect it to, I get pretty miserable.
Yeah, same here.
So, you know, it's hard. I don't have any free time, or not much of it. Probably a lot more than some people, but I'm just like, I'm always busy driving 100 miles, 90 miles every day.
Yeah, fun stuff.
The stress, I'm trying to learn how to deal with the stress and all that. But, so I'm enjoying this stage of life. But also I'm like, how can I use this opportunity to do what I'm dreaming about, what the focus of my life's about? I'm trying to appreciate where I'm at and make the most of it. And like, I still hope to be involved in missions. My goal right now is to do contracting here in the U.S. about 6 months out of the year and be able to, you know, do missions and help other people.
That's cool.
The other part of the time. And because I'm like, you know, I might not have everything together, but I know if I'm spending my time helping others, I won't look back and say I wasted my life, you know.
Yeah.
It won't be, you know, hopefully I don't turn into a person like that. You know, my goal is to, you know, even if I'm going to waste my life, I'm going to waste it serving others, because it's not a waste. and
Yeah.
God sees. God says there's a reward.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not just chasing rewards, but also, you want to chase after God, and
So do you think your faith your faith in Christian practice has just been like strengthened since doing that,
Or
do you
weekend.
think-
It's probably been weekend, right?
since
Yeah.
No, so it's like
No, like
going to those places and doing that stuff. Definitely.
it has changed because
Yeah.
I used to think that like being a missionary. I remembered reading George Mueller growing up, and amazing guy, still inspiring. I always thought that it was a mission trip, and I think a lot of Christians in the U.S. have this idea of if we're gonna go do good deeds, we're gonna go out and do them. We're gonna go out and have also a little bit of vacation at the time, and then we're gonna go out. And that was not my experience at all. Like, I went there and it sucked. You know, I went there and I sat on my hands, and I still wrestled with sin. I still wrestled with what it meant to follow God. I still, in the middle of serving and like putting bandages on people, I was miserable, and I hated it to some point
Yeah.
because my focus was on me, and even in the mission, you still have to be seeking after God.
Yeah.
You're never going to reach a point to where it's like, it just comes naturally.
yeah.
It's always a fight. And, it was like, how am I over here trying to serve others, and yet I'm hating some people, fellow Christians I'm not getting along with. It's like, no, that's wrong. And it's a sharp wake up. You shouldn't be hating people.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be, it's still a process, but like, it's like, oh, I'm missing something. God isn't my joy. He's not enough for me right now. I need to seek him. I need to find that, So I think it shocked me the most. It was like, when I finally get to missions, when I finally get there,
I think it's gonna be mammy-pamby land, and it's not.
It's gonna be
you think
green
the grass?
pastures.
Yeah, I think the grass is greener, and it's not.
I'm gonna finally arrive where
Yeah.
I don't actually have to wrestle with my own personal sin.
Yeah,
I don't have to
totally.
wrestle.
Mm-mm.
I can just be, and God's gonna be enough. And it's like, that's why it's like, looking back, you can always see, oh, that was really awesome. I was actually doing that. Because in the moment, you're just like, all right, it's just one more sandbag. It's just the thing that God put in front of you, and you gotta have a perspective shift, and you don't want to. For me, you don't want to. I've been trying not to do things for men. I want to do this because God says to do it, not because people will think well of me. Because if you do your good works before man, you have your reward. But do stuff in secret. Don't let the left hand know what the right hand's doing. Serve God, and you will have your reward. He sees. So I used to have a friend, like, when you're fasting or doing good things, it's like, and someone's like, Jonathan, you're not eating today. Are you fasting? It's like, oh no, I lost my reward. Someone else knows about it. I'm practicing my religion in front of others.
I thought it was gonna be up in heaven, and now it's down here.
Dang it. No, I'm not fasting.
I don't know.
Now I'm lying. Dang it.
Win for losing.
I read this really good book, Spiritual Disciplines for the Christian Life. Forget who it's by. Some Reformed guy. But I took it as like, oh, this is what God has for me. Like reading my Bible. This is God speaking to me. And I need to be looking for where he's going to meet me. And like, it talked about the spiritual discipline of fasting. And I would fast for a while. It's talked about the spiritual discipline of prayer. And so I'd spend extra time in prayer. And God really used that to help me grow. But like, if you want to have great public prayer, well, you shouldn't really seek after that. But like, pray in private. What's your relationship in private matters way more than you're going to church and how well you sing. God looks at the heart. It's not a it's not so much outside.
I think was that book Spiritual Disciplines for the Christian Life. I think it's Donald Whitney.
Yep, that's it. I read that and I took it as, God's will for me. My Sunday school teacher is like, hey, while you're over in Israel, here's a book for you to read. Beside the Bible, to help you cultivate an understanding.
Yeah. Mere Christianity helped me a lot. I love that book.
The Pursuit of God by A.W. Tozer. I tried reading that when I was like first saved, and I choked on it. This is terrible. Like, it's not about all these feelings I have inside.
What?
You know, this book is garbage. It's dusty. It's, you know, it's not anything like what I feel. And like later maturing as a Christian, going back and being like, this book is amazing. This book is so, you know, I needed milk. And
Yeah.
you know, new believers need milk. They need to be encouraged. You know, later on you need to grow up and start eating some meat and start like mere Christianity, you know, chewing on that and thinking about, you know, what it means to serve God with your life, and
Right.
what does it mean to be a Christian, you know.
So, Jonathan was a young little boy, struggled with his feelings, and all this crazy stuff, and talked hypothetically to his mother, and he grew up. He got saved. Yep. He got saved.
I think so.
He went and he served his enemies, the U.S.'s enemies. And then you come back to the States and you go to college so that you can better take care of yourself and possibly a family.
Yeah.
And you go through all that. And that's a really simplistic view of it all. But looking back on that younger Jonathan, 17 years old, a portal opened up behind you right here. And you look in, and you see your younger self, and he's just sitting at the table, eating some breakfast, and you have a couple seconds to give him a piece of advice. What would you say to him? Younger Jonathan's looking at you, and he's eating his scrambled eggs with big eyes right now.
Don't screw up, son.
Don't screw up.
That's a lot of weight to put on yourself.
Don't screw up
ever. What's gonna happen if I do?
I'd probably, if I could help myself in the past, be more like trust God. Because I think a lot of the stuff I struggled with all coming up to adulthood was like, I didn't know what to trust. I didn't know what to believe in. Maybe trust God and seek after him. Someone like really convict me of that and put it before me. So I'm not sure if that entirely makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess if I could have done something younger, quicker, you know. I was thinking also, I heard about this question before. There's a saying, Christ died for sinners, of whom I am foremost. And I think that would have helped me early on because I was so prideful, so caught up in looking good, you know. And it's like, if you're a Christian, you admit you're a sinner and you failed.
Yeah.
You're not a good person. You need God dying on a cross for you, you know.
Right.
So I think, I don't know. If I had a verse, that would be the verse I would have focused on younger. So
Tell the younger self, Jonathan, to be a little more humble.
be humble.
Be a little humble. Trust God.
God opposes the proud, shows grace to the humble.
It's good. It's really good. That was our interview with Jonathan Kline, and that's it. That's the end.
That's it. Bye.
You're
No, thank you guys for watching. We
Or
appreciate
listening.
it. Or listening. Yeah, because people still listen instead of watch podcasts.
Sheesh. What are you guys?
Couldn't be me. We are on YouTube and we are on Spotify, and you can rate us or whatever.
You can rate us on Spotify. You can rate us really low if you don't like this podcast, or you can rate us really high if you do like it. You can also send us mail, stayingchristian@gmail.com, if you really want to talk to us in person and feel the need to express your feelings in a private manner.
Yeah. To be clear, email and not in person, because you'll never probably ever see us in person. Never. I never want to meet you.
You can follow us on Instagram at stayingchristian. We usually post updates on there, so we promise we won't spam your feed.
No, we post like once a
Month.
year.
Blue moon.
Once a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyways,
Thanks for joining us, and stay real.
Stay Christian.
Bye, guys.
Bye. We're recording up there.
Yep.
We're recording down here.
Yep.
Test. Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, just don't look into that light, man.
Yeah, it hurts.
What light?
Which light?
Don't pay attention to this light.
Don't look at that camera and don't look at that light.
Look into our eyes, Jonathan.
Oh, no.